Hello my friends, welcome back to another little tutorial. This week I'm going to just do something nice and simple. A patron is having a little bit of trouble painting a snow scene, so I thought I'd help them out and let's just paint a nice simple little snow scene with basic techniques, almost just going back to very basic oil painting. So a nice simple snow scene. It's a big canvas, 20 by 16, primed once. I have just a few colours, but it's just a really nice soft snow scene, very eye-catching, and we could just add some people walking or something like that, just to kind of help you get to grips if you're just kind of starting out or if you're a little bit advanced, just to get to grips with painting nice little trees and snow. Nothing too complicated, just a bit of fun with some snow. So let's try it. Let's try it. It'll be something different, won't it? We haven't done a snow scene for a long time, so I think we're due some snow, aren't we? We're due a lot of snow. So let's try it. Let's have a bit of fun with this and see what happens, as they say. So let's go and grab your brushes, let's grab our stuff and just have some nice, gentle, relaxing painting of a little snow scene. I hope it helps you out in your endeavours. So yes, enjoy the video. I'll be right back. Okay, my friends. There's a reference photograph. Nice simple snow scene with a nice tree up on the right hand side. I think this will make a nice tutorial just to help you get to grips with painting snow. My colours are titanium white, naples yellow, magenta, phaylo blue, burnt umber and black. A handful of colours, that's all we need really. We can make a lovely painting out of just those few colours. Now I'm going to start with a big brush. Any big brush you have. I'm not going to draw a horizon line or anything like that. Let's just paint a nice bright blue sky. Okay, take some thinners. I have turpentine down here with some linseed oil. Okay, just a little linseed oil mixed in. I'm going to take some titanium white and a little phaylo blue. Now be careful with phaylo blue, it's a very, very rich blue. So just take it easy, don't go overboard with your phaylo blue. It's a very strong colour. I'm going to make a nice rich blue, and then I'm going to just add into that a touch of magenta. Just a touch. That's a bit pinky, so let's take some more blue. I just want a nice warm wintry blue, if you understand what I mean. So let's try that. That's not bad. Let's go up and have a look. Okay, I'm going to paint across, and you see how wet that is. It's just some turpentine in my brush. Look, that doesn't matter. I just want a thin colour. I want to paint that right across my canvas. Nice big canvas today for a change. I find with a bigger canvas you can kind of get a lot more detail in, can't you? So let's just go right across with that. Now there's so many different variations that you can do with this kind of colour. You could make it slightly greeny if you like, or slightly pinky. There's so many different things you can do with a snow scene like this. I'm just taking some white. I'm going to start lightening that as it comes down. Let's pick a horizon line. Let's go down to around here. Let's say that's the bottom of our sky there, roughly. Okay? So again, I'm just mixing again, just little touches of turpentine into this. Little blue, little white. And just fill this all in, all the way down. Doesn't matter if it's very, very thin, okay? Because we're going to be adding stronger colours on top of this. Now, I have a little piece of undercoat or primer just stuck to my canvas there. Look, I'm going to scrape that off and just go back over that again and come right down again down to the horizon line. A bit more white as it comes down. Look, just squeeze a bit more white onto your brush, Jim. Just mix it all together, cover all that white canvas with some nice light blue. There we go. So we have the basis of our nice snow scene sky done. Okay, now as that comes right down to the very bottom, it's very bright, isn't it? I'm going to just take a lot of white on my brush, plenty of white, and just soften a lot of white into that. Just keep going until you're happy, but I do want it nice and bright down at the bottom. Not too much blue. Let's just soften it all the way across as it comes up. Now as it comes up to the top, I'm going to start deepening this colour. I'm going to make it nice and deep. Let's take some more phaylo blue and a little magenta again. So you're getting this very rich kind of a blue. You see that? It's a very rich, but it's kind of a warm blue at the same time. It's probably a little bit like French ultramarine, but that's a little bit more earthy, I would say. This is, it's like a royal blue. It's very rich blue, but it's warm. Just start at the top, which are darker shade, and then just kind of soften it down. Go down at an angle if you want to soften it right down to make a nice gradient. Okay, so that is not a separate light and a dark on the canvas. So drag it right down into that brighter colour, and then we'll soften it across. Right down into that lighter shade. Nice and gently, lifting the brush off as you come down. There we go. Now, we have a nice sky there, I think. That's a nice sky, isn't it? A nice blue sky. Now, there is one thing you need to bear in mind with this, okay? We're painting a tree here with snow. So you want the dark background behind the snow on the tree to make that snow stand out. So we need to make sure you're happy with the sky and make sure it's just nice and dark enough. I might just make it slightly darker, a little bit more magenta and phthalo blue, just on its own, no thinners. And I might just darken it slightly, a little bit. I think it will really help the snow stand out later on our tree. Understand what I mean? So kind of take those things into consideration. What you don't want to happen is when you come to paint your tree later and you're painting snow on the tree, you don't want that colour to disappear into the sky. So you want a nice rich dark sky behind. Doesn't that kind of make a little bit of sense? So that's why I would always put a slightly darker colour than what you need, just to be sure that it really does stand out. And let's just soften that down there now again. We have a nice gradient in our sky. And look, if you want to leave the brush strokes, you can leave the brush strokes. You don't have to soften all the brush strokes away. Some people like to have brush strokes on their canvas. I do as well sometimes, just to show that it is a painting. It doesn't have to be completely smooth and perfect all the way. Okay, I think that's okay. And you can also if you wanted to add some clouds in here or something like that. But for this tutorial, I'm just going to keep it nice and simple. Just for you beginners out there, just to get the grips. Clouds can be added later if you want. So I'm fairly happy with that now. That's my sky done. Nice simple sky, light to dark. Let's move on and do some lovely bushes off in the distance. I need to get a little brush for that now. So, my brush of choice for doing those little bushes would be a medium stubby brush. I sell these as a set of 3, but they're lovely. When you buy them, they're new. They're flat like this when they're new, okay? But over time, when they wear down, they kind of stick out like that, you see? So you have a lovely a piece of a brush sticking out. Lovely for bushes and trees and things like that. I'm just going to dampen that and dry it. And I'm going to mix the darker shade first. When I'm looking at the trees, I look at the darker shade. So it's like a darky grey. Some blue, some black, and a little magenta. I'm thinking that's all I need for this. But there's probably a little bit more blue in the mix, wouldn't you say? So, a little bit more blue in that. And there's plenty of pink in this as well. I see a lot of pink in that kind of deep grey colour. It's like a grey pink, isn't it? Let's try this colour here. So I put an extra bit of magenta into that. Always just try 1 or 2 like this and see what you think. See what we think of that now. Have a look at that now and see what you think. I'm thinking a bit more pink. Tiny, tiny, tiny little bit more pink. And what's going to happen is this will start softening into the white in the sky. So you'll get these lovely varying shades of colour all the way along. So it picks up the white and it softens colours together. Really, really nice. And I'm just dabbing with my brush in a very random motion. Now as it goes off, I'm going to take a little bit more blue into that as it goes off into the distance. There we go, look, just dab, 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 and I'm twisting my brush as I go as well, just to make different shapes. See what I mean? Just like that, look. Off there, and we'll come over here and just add a couple of bigger ones for the left side of the painting here. A couple of bigger ones, just dab, 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 dab. Just remember, dab, dab, dab. You can't go far wrong if you just dab the tip of your brush gently. So we have a nice row of trees there, I would say. And if you wanted to make them kind of more pointy, like, you know, pointier trees, you could just use your brush on edge, or even a flat brush, and just go up like this, look. Dab, 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 up and down, up and down. And this is the darker shade of those trees off in the distance. Now I want to go a little bit darker and warmer. So what I'm going to do is take some magenta and some burnt umber. So if you take those two colours and then add a little touch of black, tiny touch of black into those, it'll give you this very rich kind of a dark pinky brown colour. As you can see, we have a little bit of that in there too, don't we? And just very randomly go along and just add little touches of that colour into your trees as well. Just along the kind of the bottom section of those trees. So it gets darker as it comes down towards the end. I'm softening them up slightly as well, you see that? And it's very important that you have a nice dark colour, because when I put the snow on these, I want to be able to see my snow. I don't want the snow disappearing. Now I'm going to get even more black and a bit more magenta. And just go really dark here and there at the bottom. And you see I'm very randomly dabbing, look. Dab, dab, dab. Very randomly. So we have slightly lighter shades, slightly darker shades going through the painting. And that's the basic section of our trees finished, really. After this, it's just adding snow. And I'll show you about adding the snow now in just a sec. I'm just bringing it down a little bit more, just a tiny bit. Okay, and I think maybe just one or two slightly bigger ones in the distance. Just around here and there, look. And perhaps over here as well. We have a big canvas, so we might as well use it. That's our trees done in the background. Just apart from the snow. We just need to add a little bit of snow across some of these. There are lots of different ways of adding snow on these. You could use a fan brush. I prefer to use a small brush like this, slightly worn, flat brush. And I'll just take some titanium white and a little tiny touch of magenta. I'm going for a whitey pink because I want to keep the shade of the painting warm. So you can have cool colours and warm colours then interacting with each other on the painting, and they bounce off each other. If I just use white, it may look very washed out. So I'm going for a very bright, kind of a whitey pink. What I will do first at this stage is think about where the light is coming from. So which direction is the light coming from, the left or the right? On the photograph it looks to me like it's coming from the left. So that means all the snow we put on these trees is going to be on the left hand sides of all these trees, look. And I'm just dabbing with my flat brush, just kind of up in a straight line here and there for some of them. You see? Maybe just creating some of those more pointier ones. And I hope you can see this all right. And then, for some of the rounder ones, I just kind of go around the edge with a curve, you see. Just add a little bit of white into some of them around the edges. And soften it back into the tree. And it's just so easy, really. Just grab your brush, have a bit of fun with your brush. Any rough brush at all will do fine for this. I'll put one or two here. Just on the bottom trees as well. So we're just almost creating different layers in our trees. Does that make sense? So you have some in front of others. Let's go here, get a nice big one here, look. Just with the corner of the brush again. Then I'll take a little bit more whitey colour, pop a little bit of white onto some of them. Because it's going to mix with the colour already there anyway, creating, again, different shades, different lights and different darks. So come over here and we try this. Now again, you can, as I said, use your fan brush for this, if you like. A fan brush is much easier. The only thing with a fan brush is it tends to give you kind of the very same effect all the way along your trees, if that makes sense. So with a fan brush, you need to be careful that it just doesn't look the same all the way along. I'm just going to go along here now and add a little bit more onto some of these. Very randomly, look, very randomly. There. And be very careful, you need to know when to stop, because if you keep going you just end up with a big mush of white kind of blobs of paint. So you need to be very careful and know when to stop as well. That's a nice little snowy background in the distance, I think, isn't it? Let's move on and do our land and all of this. So I'm first now going to put in my footpath. I'm going to pick a point and I'm going to say here, and I'm going to come around like that, and then it comes over like that, comes out here. So we have some perspective now at least. And it can come in at an angle, look. So it all disappears into the distance. The land is very basic as well, it's very easy. I know when you're looking at a photograph, you see all of these details and trees and bushes and all this kind of thing, different grasses, and I kind of try and simplify it. I go for a base colour. So what I do is I take the base colour I see on that, which is that kind of dark purpley colour, that grey purple. So I just start with that base colour and I paint on top of that. So I'm going for this type of a colour, okay? I'm going to fill in everything with this colour. You could almost go across the path as well, I suppose, but I'm going to leave it just to make it easier for you. I'm just going to fill this in all the way up to my tree line. So we have a nice base colour to paint on with our snow and all of that. This side is pretty dark, isn't it? So I'm going to be careful with that side. Across the footpath up there in the distance. And let's come down here. I'm going to darken it slightly just for this area down here. A little bit of burnt umber magenta and a little black. And I'm going to go up just along the footpath. And I'll come down this side of the footpath as well with a little dark colour. You can see I'm just kind of filling in my shading a little bit. Just getting the primary kind of colour of the scene onto the canvas. Now we have a lot of big bushes here, don't we? I'm going to start painting those in. I'm just taking some blue with a little black and a little pink. And I'm just going to start filling in these with a dark colour. Because remember, we'll have lights on top of all of this later. So that's what I do. I take the darkest shade I see and I paint on that darker shade. That's how I work my snow scenes. We also have a lot of darks over on the right hand side as well. I'll take burnt umber, magenta, a little phaylo blue with a little black. Those four colours mixed in. And I'm just going to add some texture, look. Flicking the brush upwards, or you can use a fan brush and just dab as well, which I will do in a moment. Just creating some darkness here and there, look. There we go. And I'm just looking there, what I might do is as well, I might just carry some nice rich dark blue across the footpath as well. As I have the colour on my palette or my brush, I might as well use it here and there. Just scratch some of that paint across. So we have a lot of the land done with our darker colours. I'm now going to move to a fan brush. Let's do some nice work with the fan brush and see what we can do. I'm going to go into some white, no thinners, a tiny touch of magenta and a tiny touch of Naples yellow. The Naples yellow with the magenta gives us this beautiful, bright, sunlit colour, which is fantastic for snow. Now I took a tiny touch of thinners just to thin this out because it's a little bit on the thick side, just to make sure it sticks really nice. Now you see it's really a nice bright pinky colour. I'm going to start over here and just start pulling that in, look. I'm just going to start dabbing with the tip of my fan brush all the way along. And it's going to start mixing with the colour underneath, which is good. That gives you that texture, that lovely texture that you want on a snow scene in a field. Okay, and I'm softening this up into the tree line as well. Now I'm also going to use some titanium white with a touch of phaylo blue, and I'm going to go for a very bright blue as well. Now you can see just by doing this technique how easy it is to create some texture in a field of snow. Just by dabbing. Dab, 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 dab. It's so easy, isn't it? You could also give little flicks like this if you wanted to get a more grassy feel. But I prefer the technique of just sometimes just dabbing. Just dabbing the tip of your fan brush sometimes gives you the most wonderful technique like this, you see. Dab, 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 dab. Now I'm going to start deepening the colour because as it comes down, we go into a shade, a shadow, a nice shadow. Remember, the important thing about painting is you need to have shadows because shadows really bring a painting to life. So let's take some phaylo blue with a little magenta and I'm going to just pop a few of those in as well as it comes down. You see how that deep blue, it just sort of, it picks up the painting and it brings it to life almost, doesn't it? You could put a couple here and there. There we go, all the way down. Just dab, 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 dab the fan brush all the way across. So you can see now we were going over a lot of the colour that we already put in, which is fine. Go across here, across our footpath, but that base colour will show through, you see. It will show through on the painting, that deep, dark colour. You see how we created a nice base on our canvas. So that really helps now, doesn't it? Little bit of magenta and blue again, over here. Very random with the fan brush again. And it's, you see the bits of white I have, they're kind of picking up on the canvas as well. And I'm just creating a lot of texture, a lot of movement in the footpath. Now I'm also going to go deeper. I'm going to take some phaylo blue with magenta and some black. So now we have a very blacky colour, don't we? I'm just going to start putting in the shape of our footpath with this. So just little touches here and there, creating little impressions of bushes and just things along the edge of the footpath. You see that? Just to create a little bit of a shape there, that's all. Just to get the shape of the path in. And once we have that done, then we can start putting in some darks over here, look. And it's, for me, it's all about really telling the brain that there's a lot going on. So you're almost fooling the brain into thinking that there's a lot there and there's a lot of stuff going on. But it's just dabs of paint with the brush, really, isn't it? That's all it is. I'm going to put in a nice little bush we have here just along the side of that, the fan brush. And we can also create a shadow off of that as well at the same time while we have the same colour on the brush. You see? We also have a shadow coming across from these bushes along this side of the footpath. So we can pop some of those in. I'm going to go into some burnt umber and some magenta and just pop in some of the bushes with the fan brush here, look. Maybe a touch of black. So you can see how I'm kind of starting to build all of this up. I'm just building it up slowly. I'm bringing more and more out as time goes on. So what I'm going to do next is put the fan brush down. I'm going to go to a small flat brush and I'm going to start putting in some strong shadows along the footpath. I'm going to take some phaylo blue, magenta and a touch of white. Now we want this nice and pinky. I'm going to put plenty of magenta into this. With this colour, I'm going to just start bringing some shadows across the footpath here and there, look. Off in the distance, you see? Again, going over some of those shadows, but I'm breaking the line up. Does that make sense? You see how I'm breaking the line up? I'm just dabbing. I'm sort of dabbing on the line. Again, a bit of blue, a little bit of white, some magenta. You'll notice I put a lot of magenta into almost every mix, don't I? That's to keep it nice and warm. Then I'm going to start putting in some brights. Now, the light colours is where this really will come to life, okay? I know it looks very messy now at the moment, but it's when I put in these light colours, it's really going to bring the painting to life. So let's try it. Let's get some white, some magenta and a touch of Naples yellow. Now lots of white in this, it's a very bright colour. Let's start putting in some lights coming across the footpath, look. And it's just, I'm simply dabbing with the tip of my brush, lots of thick paint on your brush, and just dab very fine little lines in between those darks. Okay. And I'm trying to remember just to keep it simple. I don't want to be worrying about going into too much detail with all of this. I'm going to go back to my fan brush and try some of this with the fan brush. I'm not worrying too much about trying to make too much detail, because if you worry too much about trying to concentrate on detail, if you worry too much about it, it becomes very tricky. So I'm dabbing a little of that white where the highlights are and then going into the field, you see? For me, it's about having fun. I really don't like concentrating too much on trying to make something look amazing all the time. It doesn't matter if it doesn't look perfect for me. It really doesn't. I'm happy if I just have a bit of fun with the painting. That makes me happy. Okay, I'm going to stop at this now and I'm going to just put in these bushes on the left hand side before we start our big tree. We can refine a lot of this later. This is only all minor stuff. For example, look, I could just dab along over these blues to make it more textured as well. You see, you could just dab along those and soften colours together as well. It doesn't have to be a sharp line, does it? So you can see the footpath then is almost kind of disappearing into the background, isn't it? Disappearing into the left and the right. You don't have to have solid lines on a footpath. I'm going to go over and do that tree. For that, I'm going to use my fan brush. Just take some phaylo blue, some magenta, and I'll go with a little burnt umber. With that kind of browny shade now, let's just pop in the basic outline of the bush. Okay, I'm just being, again, random. It has to be nice and random. It just gives you that nicer effect when it's random. If you're trying to be too particular and too perfect with all of this, it just gets, I would say, frustrating. Now a little bit of brown, a little bit of pink in there as well. Look, just create some little bushes with the fan brush. Down here, you can just move it around randomly just to create lots of darks and all that kind of stuff. And it's really a pleasure to use a fan brush for this kind of work because, you know, it's so easy, and it's very difficult to go wrong as well with a fan brush. It's very difficult, so it just makes everyone's life much easier, especially for painting. Now I'm going to just stop at that, and I'm going to pop some snow on that one. Before I do that, let's put some little twigs and little branches into this little bush over here. I'm just going to go right in and take some black with lots of thinners, okay? Now, so we're 30 minutes in. We have a lot done already, don't we? Let's take some black. Let's just pop a couple of random little branches in here. And you can see immediately it's kind of disappearing into the paint underneath, isn't it? But that's fine. That's fine. All we want is a little impression, because we'll have snow going over a lot of these later. But it's just really to add a couple of little twigs and branches and all that kind of stuff into the painting. A little bit of interest, let's call it. Okay, that's all. A little bit of interest. Then it's time for our snow. Again, we can use a fan brush for this. Let's go to some white and a touch of magenta again. It's nice to have a snow colour that's light pink because it just creates a warmth in a painting, I find. I'm just going to go around the top of this first and then just bring some of it down like that, look. You see, going over some of the tree trunk and the branches and all that kind of thing. Just going right over some of them. And down here we can just sort of go like this, in little curves. Because snow is very random as well, isn't it? There's no particular kind of shape when there's snow on a tree. It's just very random. There's just bits of snow here, there and everywhere, you see. And the fan brush helps you just keep that random effect. You could go in and add slightly stronger shapes and put some grasses as well. So it's all about getting that random effect. You do the same over here, look. A couple of little grasses. And let's take some magenta again, lots of white, and we can come over here and just create little bits of things popping up here and there. At this point now, I think we should just sit back for a moment, take a break, relax, have a look at what we have done. So it's coming on pretty nice, I would say. What I'm going to do is add a lot more white into the background over there. And I'm just going to soften a lot more through. I want to lose some of that blue in the distance, in that colour underneath the snow. So I'm just going to dab some more white over this and soften it back in slightly. just to give it a little bit of distance. Because when it's off in the distance, there's not going to be much detail, is there? It's going to be very, very soft and very kind of almost disappearing into the background a little bit. So I'm just going to go over there now, soften this back in. Just dab very gently with the fan brush, like so. And that's a little softer, isn't it? I think now I should deepen one or two of the shadows. I think they need to be slightly deeper in some places. I'm going to take some brown, some black, and just come across here, look, with some shadows. Just one or two deeper shadows coming across the footpath. Very gently with the fan brush, look. Just be careful, because you don't want to overdo this. It's very easy to overdo this and, I suppose, make a mess. It's very, very easy to do that. So just be careful. Okay. I'll stop at that. I think we're okay with that. And we'll move on and do this nice big tree. Let me just take a bit of white first. Just pop a little bit more white onto some of these here. You see, just very, again, very random. There. This nice big tree over here, it needs a bit of work, doesn't it? Now, I'm just thinking, if I got a small brush, a soft brush first, and just start dabbing. Just start dabbing all this in. Would that help make a nice soft feeling in the background? It does, doesn't it? Just a little. Now, that's a bit better. Let's get a small round brush, my friends. My apologies, I hit the camera. Let me just fix the camera there again. And let's go right into some black. Lots of black now, with plenty of thinners on your brush. Don't be shy with the black. I'm going to just paint this tree trunk black, just to help it stand out. I go around here, and let's just go right up, give it a bit of a curve. Okay, and then it curves back again, doesn't it? It curves over like that. Beautiful curve on the tree, and it disappears up. And sometimes if you stop and think about this too much, you'll become flustered and you make a mistake. You're better off just getting your paint and going for it. That's what I would say. Make it nice and wide down at the bottom. There we go. Once that's done, I switch to a very fine, pointy brush. And let's go and paint some branches. Again, I'm sticking with black. I think just let's keep it simple and stay with black, yes? Let's just start painting some big branches in here. Coming out. Branches are very easy to paint. It's simply wiggling the brush very randomly, okay? That's really all it is. Some people take painting branches far too seriously. It's just little flicks with the brush, look. That's all you have to do. You can make it simple. Bring one up down here, give it a couple of little flicks as it comes out. And we bring a few along here. I come up this side, I'm going to put a nice thick one in up here, look, a nice big one. We're going right up now with our branches, all the way up. Letting them disappear into the sky as well, just flicking them around here and there very randomly, look. That's how I like to paint my trees. Just nothing complicated, nice and simple. So there, we're going pretty well so far, I would say. Just keep adding as much or as little as you like. It's completely up to you. It's your tree, you can do what you like. You don't have to copy photographs. I find too many people copy photographs far too much, try to get them exactly like a photograph. I prefer to just go on my own. I'm really not even looking at the photograph now at this stage. I'm just going my own way and just letting the brush go where it wants, because they're the nicest paintings, aren't they? When you just let your brush do the work and you become creative, you're just letting your mind wander away where it wants to go. Right, so yeah, we're pretty good at that, I would say. A couple of little bits coming out at the bottom there. Just going to pop a few in just to help it sit down. And I don't worry about fine little details and branches. You know, some videos on YouTube, and this is, I've nothing against artists like this, but they spend hours and hours just going like this, getting every final little tiny branch in. Hours and hours and hours. And I'll be honest, I just don't have the patience for that. It's far too time consuming for me. Painting is supposed to be very kind of spontaneous, I think. It's supposed to be just in the moment. Not sitting down for 1 hour painting a handful of leaves or a few branches. It's supposed to be nice and random like this. I think this is the way it should be. I'm nothing against people who paint like that, who go into lots and lots of detail. It's fantastic and they're gifted, they really are, but it's just not my cup of tea really. I prefer to be just more free, more freestyle like this. Just have a bit of fun and see what happens. I'm going to stop at that and start putting in some shading. Now, shading we can use our fan brush for the snow on the trees. Let's use it. I'll just grab some phthalo blue and a little touch of magenta on my palette. That's all we need. Let's take the fan brush. A little bit of phthalo blue, a little bit of magenta, a bit of white. And I'm just balancing my mixes here now nicely. Tiny bit more magenta and maybe a touch of burnt umber. I want a warm pinkish kind of a colour. I'm just going to start doing the shading on this side with my fan brush, look. And I'm going to let everything sort of fall downwards. Because with a tree so big, the weight of the snow is going to make those branches want to kind of fall and tip over and fall down. So I'm just going like this. Just using that dark colour. I'm creating little clumps, so little areas. I'm not just going randomly everywhere. I'm creating little areas where the snow would be gathered on the branches. Do you see what I mean? And really, it's really a very easy way of creating plenty of detail on a tree without painting detail, so to speak. That's what I like to say. It's painting detail without painting detail, creating the illusion of detail. Does that make sense? You can just keep going as much as you like with this. I tend to kind of hold back slightly when I'm painting these types of trees, because once you put it on, it's very difficult to take it back off again. So bear that in mind. Okay, that's the lighter, that's the darker shades done. I'm now going to start putting in some nice bright whites on this. So more thinners in my bottle there. Clean the fan brush well for this. You want a nice clean fan brush. Let's go. Let's take some magenta, some Naples yellow, So equal amounts of both, roughly. So you've kind of a nice sunsetty colour there, and then lots of white. Lots of that white. That will give us a nice bright luminous snow kind of a shade, all right? Let's go. I'm going to start at the left. The light is coming from the left, so let's start over on the left and go right up the top here, the corner of your fan brush, and just start bringing some highlights into those trees, into those clumps that we put in, you see? And let them soften back into the darks as well. Does that make sense? Let's go over here and do some on this. So you can see I'm kind of softening that colour back into the darker shade, just a bit. And this really makes it easier then if you want to widen your shades. If you want to widen them, or widen your trees, widen the branches out, it really helps. You can bring your white out further if you want. If you want to create that illusion of it being thicker. Just go on top of some of these. Don't forget about the centre of your tree either. You're going to have a little bit of snow kind of cutting in front of all your branches and stuff as well. So don't forget about those. How's that? I mean, that's not too bad, is it? It's not too bad at all. I'll go into some thick white now, and I might just add some thicker white onto some of these, just to make them a little more prominent, okay? I want to be able to see them just that little bit more. So just thick white on its own. Then I'm going to come down and I'm just going to sort of dab here and there on the base of the tree. Just want to soften the tree down into the ground, if that makes sense. And I'm also going to just, while I have the paint on my brush, I'm going to just add some lights here and there. We might as well use the paint up while we have it on our brushes anyway. Pop some grasses and stuff in like that. Now one thing we don't have on the photograph is a light side of that tree. I might just add a little tiny bit of brightness on the tree trunk itself, look. Tiny bit, and soften it in. Now there's one very important thing missing from this, and I hope you know what it is. It's a shade, a little shadow from the tree going onto the snow here, isn't it? We need a small shadow, don't we? Let's pop a shadow in. Magenta, blue, and a little burnt umber. So we need to have a little shadow on this just to make it, to show a bit more where the light is coming from. Okay, just like that. And then we soften it away. That shadow automatically just brings the whole thing to life, doesn't it? Now there's also a few other little things you can do. Just to add little touches of detail here and there, I suppose. You can just take some white, if you like, and just pop little bits of white here and there, look. As if it's just little nodes of snow on top of grasses and all that kind of thing. And you could go around and you could do this as much as you want. It's completely up to yourself. But just have a bit of fun, really. And again, doing these little things like this, it just adds, again, more detail. The suggestion of more detail to a painting. Now we need to add some people in here, don't we? But actually first, let me just put a couple of these in here. Just a couple of little flicks of grasses here and there, just to again add the suggestion of little things going on. And I'm going to add some people into this. So I'm thinking, for a nice effect, how about a splash of red? How about a splash of cadmium red into this? I think a little touch of cadmium red will really catch someone's eye, wouldn't it? Get my small round brush. Take some cadmium red, and let's just imagine there are two people walking off in the distance. We'll make them nice size now so that they can actually be seen, yes? A little bit of cadmium red on one. And we'll do another one, perhaps just with some brown or something like that. Maybe brown, but a magenta. Come down then like the shape of a carrot. Okay? It's just the shape of a carrot, that's all it is. I don't think you'd have any problem trying to paint the shape of a carrot, would you? And we'll just pop a little dot on top of each one for the heads. I'm also going to add a little bit of red and bring the arm around, look, like so. And we also need a shadow. Let's bring a shadow off of these. Into the snow, look. And you can just have a bit of fun with this then. You can just refine it and just have some fun. How is that, my friends? I'm calling this finished. You can of course now add little bits of this and that and whatever you like, but I'm just trying to paint a nice simple little snow scene for you, just to show you how you can create a simple snow scene just with one or two brushes and a few colours. I think that's quite nice. Let me zoom in slightly and show you. There we go. And I know it doesn't look exactly like the reference photograph, and I didn't want it to. I just wanted to kind of go my own, really, and try. Just to show you how you can create a simple snow scene. Okay? That's all I wanted to do. So I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you so much for watching. That was quite refreshing, I think, just to paint something nice and easy, have a bit of fun with your brushes. It was quite refreshing, and I must say I really enjoyed it. It was nice for a change, not to have to focus on lots of detail and sunsets and all that kind of thing. It was very, very nice for a change. So I think that went quite well. Let me know what you think. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you've learned a little bit about using a fan brush even, how to loosen up a little bit. Do let me know what you think. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for subscribing if you have. If you haven't subscribed, please do. You're really helping a creator. I'll see you very, very soon. Thank you so much, my friends, and thank you to all my patrons as well. I sincerely appreciate your support. God bless and happy painting.